As a child of the 80s, of course I was a big fan of Transformers. I can't say they were my number one or two. That spot pretty much goes to Star Wars and Masters of the Universe. But Transformers was definitely number three if I had to make a list. And, well, as an adult, there have been a ton of Transformers live action movies. Of all the Transformers movies that have ever come out, by far my favorite, and still, is the 1986 animated Transformers the movie. To say this movie was one of the most influential films on my childhood is, well, it's putting it in a bucket with, Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark. This movie was incredible. It wasn't just groundbreaking in the sense that it was getting to see all of my favorite Autobots and Decepticons on the big screen, but it was a game changer. I mean, like, literally a game changer, both in terms of storytelling and the way toys and content were shown to children. Everything from the opening battle to that final mysterious shot of Unicron's decapitated head floating around Cybertron was just captivating, to say the least. And as I noted, the movie introduced so many new concepts into the lore of Masters of the Universe, of Transformers. See what happens when I work on He-Man professionally? It sneaks in there. I mean, everything from the matrix of leadership being inside of Optimus Prime to brand new characters like the evil Sharkticons that swim around and try to eat you. I mean, I love these toys, especially in the bath. And the very first female Transformer, RC. And of course, it's known as being one of the only cartoons that actually used a curse word. I mean, this was pretty mind-blowing for a kid, right? Especially, it ranked right up there with, nudity and Clash of the Titans. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a PG movie, and they're cursing and, craziness. And you can't make a list of the most influential things of the movie without, of course, a huge nod to the hugest Transformer of them all, Unicron. Yes, Unicron, everyone's favorite planet-destroying... Okay, everyone's second favorite planet-destroying mechanical device. I mean, well, okay, he's cooler than Galactus. I will give him that. I don't know if the Death Star is cooler than him. But this is the movie that literally rewrote the DNA of Transformers. I mean, right there on screen, changing all of the previous toys and characters into new toys. It's also notable as having a huge, amazing cast. It was the final acting appearance of Orson Wells, who voiced Unicron. Like the Orson Wells, the cinematic legend. And, I mean, speaking of cinematic legends, it also featured the voice of Leonard Nimoy, better known as I Am Not Spock's author. And my personal favorite, Eric Idle from Monty Python as Wreck-Gar. I mean, who doesn't love a good Eric Idle cameo, or, well, a little more than a cameo. And to say this movie is chock full of Transformers trivia, everything from the fact that, well, did you know Megatron's blaster in the show, every time it was a gun, the first shot always missed? Like always? But in the movie, when Starscream picks up his gun, he actually hits someone the first time. It's the first time Megatron's gun actually hit someone on the first shot. I mean, I don't know why they always had that in the show. Maybe it was to make the gun less dangerous, but definitely turned up the notch to an 11. Oh, and the soundtrack. What a soundtrack this movie had. I mean, of all the movies that came out in the 80s, this is one of the greatest soundtracks to an 80s movie of all time. I mean, of course it had the, I don't know if you'd call it the number one hit, but the main song from the movie by Stan Bush of I Have the Touch, which still to this day, I cannot hear this song without thinking of the Transformers movie. I mean, it just brings back all of those moments. And then another band that contributed to the movie was Kick-Axe, with Nothing Gonna Stand in Our Way. And it's interesting that Kick-Axe had their name changed in the credits. They were credited by the filmmakers as the band Spectre General. And this was done without their permission or their knowledge. They didn't even know until they saw the movie that they changed the name of the band. I guess they thought Kick-Axe was not appropriate, but cursing was. Oh, and of course, Weird Al. The movie had a song by Weird Al Yankovic, Dare to Be Stupid. I mean, and it was like a theme song for Wreck-Gar and the Junkticons. I mean, amazing. So the movie starred a whole bunch of new characters. And if you're looking at this image and you're not a diehard Transformers fan, you might be like, well, wait a minute, I don't recognize those guys. Where's Optimus Prime? Where's Megatron? Where's Soundwave? Where's Starscream? Well, that's because that was the whole point of the movie. The 1984-1985 toy line that had those characters you may be able to rattle off at the top of your head if you're a more casual fan, well, the entire point, literally the marketing point of the movie, was to get rid of them so that Hasbro could introduce all new toys to sell more toys. And the thinking was from the marketing executives that you couldn't sell new characters unless you got rid of the old ones. And while this could be seen as kind of the ultimate example of an execubot or a decision made by a spreadsheet, it had a much, much bigger effect than just swapping out one set of characters for the next year in order to push toy sales and get people to buy new characters. Because not only were the characters sort of gotten rid of, but, they were literally killed on screen. And by killed, I mean Optimus Prime there was literally shot to death and on his deathbed passes off the matrix of leadership to the next generation. And it's not like kids hadn't seen death on screen before. I mean, there's plenty of sci-fi and fantasy characters that had passed away on screen in front of kids' eyes, and some of them could have been viewed as friends or mentors, or characters that were, beloved, if you will. And, there were some really sad moments in the 80s where characters, or in this case, characters' steeds, passed away. I mean, Baskin's horse, no, get out of the swamp. But when Optimus Prime passed, this was kind of like watching your father pass away. Optimus Prime was a father figure for not just the Transformers, but for a lot of kids, because he was the leader. He was the good guy main hero. He wasn't just like Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones. He was the leader of an entire group. So watching the leader die on screen, this actually did have a very profound effect on children all around the country. And the screenwriter of the movie, Ron Friedman, he was actually really against this concept for exactly those reasons, feeling that killing off a father figure right in the middle of the movie was going to be detrimental to both the plot and to the audience, that the audience was not going to connect with this. He knew how much kids idolized Optimus Prime, and that goes as much today. Optimus Prime is one of those characters that is beloved by children because, again, not just because he's a hero, but because he's the leader of a group of heroes. So unlike, Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones, who are kind of, one-off on their mission, Optimus Prime dying on screen was kind of considered a massacre. I mean, this was like, losing the main guy, the guy who led everything. And there are even fans who still debate today, like, was this really, an issue? Did kids really lock themselves in closets? Yeah, they did. Transformers the movie absolutely traumatized children. There were children going to therapists and, locking themselves in basements and under beds and in closets. It's become a moment in pop culture that both toy geeks and children, who weren't, children are into toys, but not the ones who grew up to be adult collectors, we kind of never forget this moment. This was like heart-wrenching. No one expected Optimus Prime to die on screen like that. And in fact, going back to the writer, Ron Friedman, he even came out with a book called I Killed Optimus Prime, Confessions of a Hollywood Screenwriter, where he talks about his resistance to doing this and how much he knew this was going to hurt kids. And, he kind of sort of did it against his will. Well, I guess he did it for a paycheck, but you can't blame the guy. There were some major effects from this. One of the most immediate was that Hasbro changed their plans for the upcoming G.I. Joe animated movie, where Duke was going to die. They were going to basically do the same thing and replace all the G.I. Joe characters with new ones for '86. And after the reaction with Optimus Prime, this was completely changed. Optimus Prime's death did define a generation. It was not just a regular screen death, like watching, a sidekick or a mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi dying was expected. The mentor always dies. And while this was so shocking at the time for kids, looking at the movie now and watching it, with 30 years of on-screen deaths compiled, It does kind of feel a lot less shocking and more like whatever. But at the time, this was the first time kids had ever really seen not just a major character, but a character that led the team pass away on screen. Now, I do think the movie does keep getting better with time. It has not aged poorly at all. It is so watchable. The animation is crisp, it's not hokey, it's amazing. And now that, with the death expected, and at least going into it knowing, there's obviously a different experience. But the fact that this was the first movie that really killed off a character that was your robot buddy had a prolonged effect both on kids, on the viewers of the movie, and on the toy and film industry. The fact that they changed what was going to happen in G.I. Joe because of the way kids reacted to this movie. And the fact that since this film, you really haven't seen this kind of scene repeat itself. You've never seen the main leader die in the middle of a movie, because the way audiences react to a film is part of the movie experience. It's called a shared experience. When you're sitting there in the dark, all watching a flickering screen together. Yes, I was a film major. And because of Transformers the movie, we have to this day never seen this type of scene repeat itself. Part of what makes Transformers the movie a great film, and it still holds up today as one of my favorites. If you like this video and want to see more like it, leave a comment below. Give a like or a subscription. Helps tell YouTube to share this with more people, and I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.